Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Private Club Radio. I'm your host, Denny Corby. We are back from Orlando at World Conference. Let's get into the next episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Private Club Radio. I'm your host, Denny Corby, and we are back from Orlando. In this episode, we are going to recap some highlights from the CMAA World Conference. It was a blast down there in Orlando. And then I'm going to play a little chat that I recorded a few weeks ago with our new board member, GM of Renaissance Country Club, Mr. Jeff Isbell, CCM. We're going to talk about a lot of fun things, including a very popular common theme in the episode, which is happy accidents. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, I am super excited to see this. So I am new to the podcasting world, and I was looking at the stats, and we have a lot of you are from overseas and out of the country. This makes me so happy to see the reach going so far. So we have about 25% of our listeners, 25% of you are from outside of the States, and that is so cool. So please, I would love to learn more about you and see if what we're talking about and learning on here is effective for you. What's different? What's comparable? I would love to chat with some of you. So please reach out on all the social medias. You can do Private Club Radio. You can do myself, Denny Corby. You can do email, privateclubradio@gmail.com. But I would love to listen in and hear more from you all. I chatted with some of you at conference, which was really cool, but I would love to hear just from more of you a lot more often. So yeah, the conference was great. Jeff Morgan gave a really good state of the association. This was the largest gathering of club managers in the entire world ever. Thousands and thousands of people. It was such a blast. There was a 9.4% increase in membership. 9.4%. They are at 7,350 people, 7,350 members. And over the past 3 years, 35% of those are new members. So, which is good because as, some people phase out, there's a lot more coming back in to replace. So that's really, really, really great. What we did here is that the Contemporary Club Management book is going to be coming back. There was, there was they had half of the trademark with the National Restaurant Association, but we are getting that back in terms of club managers. We're getting it back. So there will be a new updated and adjusted digital and physical book coming out soon. It was a really good conference overall. They had some amazing speakers. They had Eric Qualman, who was a fantastic speaker. His glasses are just great. How do you not love those bad boys, those bright green glasses? Then we also heard from the Iron Man of baseball, Cal Ripken Jr., just really talking about perseverance and just doing the work and not complaining. The guy was an absolute beast. Still is, because he's still alive. But there was some really cool workshops this year and experiences. The Wine Society dinner, tried to make it to that, but could not, unfortunately. It was at the Gaylord, super nice property. All the Gaylords are really nice. Massive property, massive property, but so much going on there. I was there at the conference. I was there at Michael Guggenplan's booth, the members only show. I am now representing him. For those of you that don't know, I do a stand-up magic show for private clubs, and Michael does a mind reading show, which is fantastic. He and I both designed our shows to work primarily in the private club world. So that's what we do, and he and I have joined forces. So if you're looking for really good club entertainment that your members are going to be raving about, please reach out. Would love to help you out. To even have a chat about your next club event. We'll see. Shameless plug there. But it was so great seeing and meeting so many of you down there. It was really neat, especially because we connect a lot on LinkedIn. So putting actual faces and voices to people's LinkedIn profile pictures is really cool. Up next, though, we have the National Club Association. We have their conference coming up in Chicago in a couple months in May. That's going to be a ton of fun. So hopefully we will see a bunch of you at that. But let's get things rolling. Let's get straight into it. I got to sit down with a really cool, fun gentleman. Mr. Jeff Isbell, CCM, brand new over at the Renaissance Country Club. We talk about happy accidents. It's a common theme in our chat there. He talks about a lot of his struggles and gets very open with our conversation, which is really, really cool. We have a really great conversation, and I think there's a lot of open topics, maybe some things people wouldn't normally talk about on a podcast, but Jeff was amazing, opening right up, and I'm super excited. I got to see him at conference. Now we have him here to chat with, brand new board member. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Jeff Isbell.
Of whatever, I don't even know, the private club radio. So
what? And you're off. No.
who am I talking to? What is this?
Rick, come on.
So, kind of from the beginning, we had moved to Massachusetts from outside of Atlanta, and my family was always running from something. So we were always like back and forth, and we landed in a town called Acushnet, and the local country club was the country club in New Bedford. And someone who I met in school was a caddy there, and I said, "Hey, you should caddy there. I do that in the summer." I knew what it was. I'd been around golf. My grandparents were marshals in the Bell South Open, so I used to kind of spend that week, with them when I was a little kid. So I was around it. I was never much of a golfer. They would bring the driving range, and I stunk. So I never really continued that search. I'm not a natural-born athlete, as you may be surprised. So I went and I caddied there. And that began kind of what I did in the summer. And then I was a little bit older, and I became, a bagroom attendant. And then they needed a valet. And I valet parked cars. Couldn't drive stick. Still can't. So that was always an adventure of grinding people's, gears into the ground and bumping off the things. I was parking cars. But it was a learning opportunity. It was a life lesson. Became a bartender when I turned 18 because they needed a bartender. And they said, "What's in a Doers and soda?" And I said, "Doers and soda?" They said, "Good, you're going to be bartending tonight." And so that was sort of like the home for me. And I loved it. I absolutely had a blast. I love the people, both the members and the staff. It was just a fun energy. I had friends that worked at the grocery store in high school or worked at, Wendy's. And I was at the club, like around alcohol and food, and there was live music. It was a party all the time. And the people I worked with were absolutely nuts. This is like early 90s, crazy time in the hospitality business. Work hard, play hard for sure. And so that's what I did. But then I was going to go to college and leave that behind. The idea of working in hospitality wasn't something that kind of ever crossed my mind, like as a profession. It was going to be something that people did kind of in between jobs. Like it was kind of like the modern day gypsy. So I went to UMass Amherst, was going to be an education major. And then I worked. We had to take a child development class. And I had to just kind of stand behind the two-way mirror, and I saw little kids being little kids and teachers losing their mind. And I went, not a chance. It's not a chance. Is this something that I want to do? So I I took the Hospitality 100 class. And the girl that sat behind me on that class stood up and had an answer, giant lecture auditorium, and she was like 2 rows behind me. I was like, "I'm in love with this girl." It was my first college crush. I'm like, I don't even know her name at that point. But I was going to do whatever she did. So she ended up having a friend in the same dorm. We would see each other, kind of casual, "Hey," I'm like, "Oh, there's that girl I love." We become friends. She is a part of the student chapter of CMAA and says, "This is what you need to do." I said, "Oh, well, of course, yes. That's 100% what I want to do." So I joined up because I was in love with her, and that sort of began things. And I went on to be a student officer in the chapter. Spoiler alert, we never got together. We remained great friends. 20 years later, we're still friends. She was a reader in my wedding. I read in her wedding. Nothing ever happened between the two of us, but that's how I got involved with CMAA. And
that's
then,
amazing.
In the course of that, I met some really great people. I had a good internship. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Everyone has that story. But that's how I got involved originally in the club world.
It's interesting when I've been excuse me, talking to a bunch of club managers and club professionals, and kind of you can see the ones who a little bit more, I don't want to say more successful than others, because success is a very personal thing, but you can kind of just see the award. You can just kind of tell looking at someone's like LinkedIn profile. You can tell a lot about them. And when I talk to a lot of these people who have really good stories, they have CCMs, they have a certain level that they obtained. A lot of it comes down to doing a lot of jobs. Like you start off as caddy, and then you went to valet, you worked your way up. It's a very similar story to so many other people. Why do you think doing those other jobs, how do you think that helped navigate?
Well, I think from an early point in your career, when you're a manager, a lot of us are food and beverage people, come up that way, and now it's broadening to the better of the industry, probably. But I think you have a perspective of, I've done your job, and I think good leaders understand, good managers certainly, understand all the roles that they're responsible for. And so when you come up kind of through the ranks, you understand the pain points, you understand how the job should be done. It gives you a little perspective. We move up, we move away from the things that we like doing a little bit. When you're forward facing server, caddy, you're interfacing at a different level. When you become the manager with a big office, you kind of lose a little bit of that, and you're not pounding, pressing the flesh on a minute by minute basis. But I think that's, I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but that's.
No, it does.
I think wearing a lot of hats is what we do as a profession, and you start that way, and it never stops.
You've had a fairly successful club career. How do you find and attract excellent talent?
That's $1 million question, right? It's hard. It never used to be hard, right? There was always people lined up to do these things. Where I work now, we're in a corporate environment. We have 1 million people who have one single responsibility. We have now a talent acquisition manager whose sole responsibility for our corporation, Southwest Corporation, and the 5 clubs that we have is to solve that sort of riddle. Is where do I get good people? I think you have to knock on every single door now. I've said for a while, obviously your Indeed, your social media stuff is a good way. What's your forward-facing presence on your website? Are you treating your current employees great, that they're going to go out and tell their friends or colleagues to come work for you? And then are we working at every kind of level? Are we hitting up hospitality programs at the vocational school level, at community college, at the university level? Are you poaching from other industries who have people skills? Because it's all about personality, right? We can train, if we're doing a job, we can train anyone to service a member in whatever role, whether it be outside operations, inside the clubhouse. We can train that, but you can't train personality and a passion to serve people, because that's what this is. We're serving food, we're not saving lives, but you have to do it with a smile, you have to want to do it. Your why could be a million different reasons. It could be, I need to do this job and do it well so I can make money and go be a chiropractor. But you have to still have the passion to serve people. Or you could say, I want to, grow up in this industry and become the general manager one day. And to do that, I need to start at the ground level and smile and be passionate about it. But finding good talent never stops. You can't say, in the old days, well, we're going to start hiring in March for the summer. It's year round. You need to, because clubs are year round too, but you need to be planning throughout the year and staffing up.
I don't know if it was Disney or one of the other, millions of people, but one of their things was hire for attitude, train for aptitude.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, no brainer.
I was digging around. I was reading some stuff, listening to some things, and you mentioned having a very important mentor when you were younger, Mr. Chris Coulter.
Yeah.
Can you talk about having a mentor, how that all came about, how you found one? Were you ready? Because I think it's a unique thing to have one. A lot of people need them, don't always get one. And you got very lucky to have one and have a good one.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll tell you. My very first CMAA conference as a student, I met Chris Coulter at a career opportunity showcase where students are kind of in a cattle call in line trying to find jobs. And I did not plan on having an internship that summer. I was going to go back to where I had always worked. And he was, kind of all the managers were stationed around the room, and he was speaking, and I was drawn to him and said, I want to work for that guy. Oh, it's in New Hampshire. That's not too far away from home, because I was afraid, right? And ended up taking someone's formatted resume and typing my information over in the business center of the hotel. And this is how old I am. It was on like a hard disk, like
a floppy disk.
Yeah, so I had to write my name over the format, because I didn't even bring one. That's how not interested I was in getting an internship. Wow. Left it in this room. This is the Atlanta Marriott Marquis. And that, hotels had business centers then, and I had to pay like 10 cents to get a copy. And left it in his room, and we met. I think a week later, he happened to be up at my school recruiting at the same time, and we talked then. We talked over the phone a couple times afterwards, and I got offered an internship with him. And then I got there, and I thought, I'm going to work for this guy, because I didn't realize the club was a lot bigger than the club that I'd worked at my youth, and didn't work one-on-one with him immediately. I'm like, I'll never see the guy that I wanted to work for. Until I did, and I ended up working for him for 8 summers. But, I hated him, and I said this I hated him more than, because he was hard. He expected a lot, and he was always good at like a subtle dig. I'm like, oh, he's a jerk. But he was a jerk at like, you wanted to prove your worth to him. And so he's alive, then make it sound like he's dead. But like, there was like, it was a lot of times I'd go, I'm like, oh my God, Mr. Coulter's such a jerk. And we'd all talk about it, but that relationship evolved over the years and the different roles that I did. And he became, he's now literally, I speak to him on the phone 3 times a week. And throughout my earlier stages of my career, it was job advice, complaining about things, and kind of being a sounding board and giving me answers on how to solve problems. And as we've evolved, we're now in a point where he calls me for advice and information.
That's cool.
And we talk about things that aren't necessarily club related. More often than not, we talk about our family. Like we talk about, we're talking about spirituality. We talk about a lot of things that 20 years ago, I could never imagine having that type of relationship, because it was sort of the standard boss. But he's like, my father passed away, not that he's filled that hole, but in some ways, he's my dad. And I want, when something big happens personally, he's got to be the top 3 person that knows, right away. And same with professionally. Like everything that I've done in my career, he's been there. And now that he's kind of in a different career, I'd like to be a resource for him. So it's funny how those things change in 22 years. So.
Do you remember any really funny, unique stories with Chris?
There's a lot of stuff that's not necessarily very wise, but it's hard to say. Little thing, the things that we always he used to say to me all the time was, "The money will come," and I used it as a joke for a long time, because that was whenever I was making $375 a week when I graduated college and was working for him, and we would complain that we needed more money, and he'd say, "The money will come." You have to do all these things, the money will come. And then as you become a manager and then the decision of offering people money, you understand what that means a little bit more. And the harder you work, the more you learn, you prove your worth, and then your value too. And most of my career, the money will come, right, Mr. Coulter? And now it has, in a way. That's those are the sort of things. And of course, when we hang up, I'm going to have like a million things that he said. But he was just he is a relatable person, even though we have an age difference, a generation gap between the two of us. We have with this funny thing, which now it's a recruiter in this industry, 2 recruiters in this industry, himself and me. We're on a celebrity death text thread. And so this is how, you break up the the monotony in your life, or sometimes when work's stressful, you have to laugh. Whenever someone famous, and it's really the original idea was that someone who's like not super famous dies, you want to be the first to inform the group that this celebrity has passed away. And if you can tie in, a quote or a song or something with that person, like Burt Bacharach passed away this weekend. It was like, say a little prayer. Burt Bacharach is not coming down for breakfast. And so that's... So I told this is not going to be an inspirational day. So anyone who's listening to this is like, wow, my takeaway is here's something awful that people do. But
this is going to be edited down to like 3 minutes.
It's a TikTok version of
YouTube Shorts. Do you think leaders are born or made?
They're made. Because, I'll say from me, it's about the people that you surround yourself with or get surrounded with it. And a lot of it is a happy accident, right? If you're not on, like when I met Chris, if I didn't make that flight that half of my student chapter missed and didn't go to that conference, which I didn't want to go to, but I met a girl a year before that I had a crush on, I never would have met her. So there's a lot of just happy accidents. If I had an opportunity to work at the Masters, and it was because I had met someone casually who thought of me when they needed somebody and that I wasn't really in a relationship with, but they knew me. So there's just every situations happen and you learn from those, and that's how you build your leadership style. And I think, people are born rich. They're not born leaders, right? So you can, my father was a good person. He wasn't a leader. He wasn't, he was just a guy. He was never a manager of people. But I think, over time you learn those leadership qualities from the people you work with or people that you engage with in your life. Some people, and usually it's someone who's a bad leader, that you learn not what to do. I think, just like you learn more from your failures, when you fail, those are lessons. Wins are like exciting in the moment, and then you move past it, right?
What do you think are the top most important qualities of a really successful leader?
I think you have to have empathy, particularly now with now that mental illness and mental wellness are so high on the forefront. You have to have empathy and kind of be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. You have to have a passion, be able to share the passion with others. That's the hospitality game right there, isn't it? So, like, this job is nights and weekends, and your friends are on Instagram on a vacation every other week, and you're at the club more often than not. And we do it because we love it. We love serving people. We love working with people who have similar interests as us. We get to be around awesome food, beautiful venues. You have to have the passion and sell it to everybody and believe it too. So it's probably some empathy, passion, and you gotta see the world differently than everybody else. I think that's like what the best leaders do is, you can sit in a room with all your department heads and they tell you, here's what's going, here's what we always do. And you have to push through that wall and say, but here's what we're going to do now. And here's where we want to go. I guess that's vision, right? So you have to have a unique vision. That evolve. I guess it has to evolve too, right? Because you can't just be one way over time. Everything's evolutionary. So.
And I would assume too, you've been to many clubs in different capacities, and I'm sure each club is a little bit different too, and you have to maneuver and change and be kind of flexible.
Yes. I mean, case in point, my whole career I've been in a member-owned club that have 100+ years, 125, 130 years of history and culture, to the club I'm at now, who is just about 20 years and is owned by a development group that's building their own brand and trying to figure out who they are still. Like we had a meeting yesterday and we're talking about what's our history? We don't really have history. We were like, we're built on an old, part of our property is on an old ski hill, but no one really knows anything about that. There's a rumor that JFK played golf here. Well, sure he did, but it's only been, but the course has only opened 20 years. Why would he play golf here? Like, so there's a lot of like fake rumors. And like, there's $1 million buried on the property from one of the developers because they were hiding money. Well, that's not true. If it is, we'd be digging holes in our friend center. So we don't have any history.
That's why there's so many bunkers on the court.
Right, exactly. So that that's just different, and so like we have to, what I realized quickly here when I started this job was like I'm definitely not going to, when we manage, we lead people, we manage process, but I'm also have to build the culture. Because we have a team that sort of operated in silos for a long time. Nothing against my predecessor because she did a million things right, but there were situations, especially in the last few years, where you have to kind of make some sacrifices to make sure you have a complete team. And now that luckily I have a team in place, but I have to build that culture, kind of unite us. And I like to think I'm good at that.
Well, I mean, I don't think you probably would have gotten this far if you weren't. So
we'll see in a year. We'll come back and I'll be doing an interview from a bar where I'm mopping the floor. So
the poorhouse in Boston.
Exactly.
Is that place even still open? I don't know.
I don't know. It might be.
I remember when I was in college there, I lived like two or three blocks, and it was our favorite place to go because you can get a frosted big mug of Blue Moon for $5.25.
Deal.
It was the best.
I don't know if it survives COVID, honestly, but I think it's.
I loved it there.
I used to be an opening, like we go to the Red Sox game on like Marathon Monday, so the Patriots Day game, and we would walk up Boylston because that's sort of the marathon route, so you get to kind of walk in reverse as they're getting ready. And the poorhouse people would be in there at 8 a.m, slamming beers.
I think it was my junior year or senior year. Me and my friend went there because we haven't seen each other like all summer. We didn't make it to the first day of classes.
Semester. What's one day?
And it's the first one. The syllabus is online. We all get it. We talked about, leadership, a bunch of things. There's been a lot of change in the past couple of years. What kind of difficulties have you, besides like the obvious, how have you worked through them all? What challenges have you faced that might be a little bit different than normal? What have you learned? What's been the couple past years like?
It's funny. So COVID was like a boon for clubs. More people joined clubs, more people played golf. And all of that was on the decline before COVID. So it was a happy accident. And the great thing is clubs evolved quicker than they've ever evolved because clubs generally don't ever change. And now that sort of has become part of what's the expectation of the club is we need to change quickly and adapt to the ever-changing needs of our members. So it's been fun that we're not so slow and incremental anymore and industry-wide. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, the labor shortages were tough. Obviously, that goes without saying. Me personally, I was at a smaller club. We didn't have a ton of money, didn't have a ton of support staff, so I ended up doing multiple roles. And to the detriment of myself and my family. Like, I got old, I got gray, I got heavy. I didn't take care of myself because I put my work first while preaching to other people. Take care of your family. Take the time off. And I didn't do it. And then another reason why I'm in the new job is because I want to be able to have the time and means to take better care of myself because I have 2 young girls and I want to be there for them. So that's something like I learned. You have to take the time for yourself. And it also shows that, your team needs to see that permission that you're giving them. So like, oh, he's telling me to take the time off and take care of this, but he's not, or she's not. And I think that's really important.
Was there a tipping point where you finally realized that?
Yeah, none of my clothes fit. No, yeah, the tipping point really was I was in the interview process for this job, and my daughters, this was like around Thanksgiving time, just before, and they were always very excited about Christmas. It really, it's just like going to Target. November 1st hits, and you go from Halloween to Christmas, right? And they were writing the Christmas list on November 1st. And my oldest, who was 5, she wrote, "What I want for Christmas is for Daddy to be home."
Oh,
yeah. And and she didn't mean be home for Christmas. She meant, I want Dad to be home. Just home. Because I wasn't home. I was home on Mondays, sometimes Tuesdays, for bedtime. But the rest of the time, I wasn't home at bedtime. And since I started this job, with a couple exceptions, I've been home every night to put them in bed. Might not have been there through dinner. Might not have been at the first or second story, but I was there for bedtime. I have been there, and I'll be there today. So
that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's got to be tough. I just got married last week. We don't want kids, but I can't imagine my dog telling me, I want to see you more at home. But no, seriously, thank you so much for sharing that. I did find one other thing I want to bring up, and then we'll close it off. I know you have so much to do today. So I was reading another article, or maybe I was listening to something you did. I get way too into this, but you mentioned a few times the word member experience. What does that mean to you, and how do you make sure the member experience is on point?
So member experience is something that we take seriously here as part of our Southworth brand. So much so we have a corporate membership experience director, and then we have on-site member experience people. And that really what that kind of pushes down is what we describe. And I'm slowly sipping the Southworth Kool-Aid. I haven't quite consumed all of it. But what we kind of strive for is everyday excellence. And so for us, it's making sure that the member can't live without us. And so when they're here, they're having a great golf experience. But also, what we kind of preach is, you have a great golf experience, but at the same time, the kids need to be having a fun thing at the pool. And it can't just be like, oh, it's a nice day, we're going to be at the pool. What surprises can we bring? So we do daily surprises. We do parallel programming. So if there is a wine dinner or a wine tasting or a bourbon tasting, we have a kids activity aside of that. If there's a ladies golf, let's buy an example, like a ladies golf event. It's not just golf and lunch afterwards. We're going to have music and maybe some sort of elevated craft activity for them. And so it's just not that your simple thing. So every day they're here, there's something special and unique. Because from our standpoint, we're building our brand both here at Renaissance and at our other properties, and hopefully, spoiler alert, more properties in the future. And we want them to know that if you're a member at one of these clubs, every day there's something amazing that happens, and we're trying to sell that. And then, of course, the little things. Everybody's name, your food's great, yada, yada, yada. But it's building out these experiences. So kid activities, couples activities, what we're calling, we have a program we're trying called Connect Tales that we could have. Hey, if we're going to have, some light hors d'oeuvres and some gin. And if you're a new member or if you live in this neighborhood, come, and that's going to be your night to kind of meet and greet. That's a really stupid example of that, but that's, they're very basic. But try to do something every day that's different and special.
That's absolutely genius. And, all right, Mr. Jeff, thank you so much. Are you on any social media? Do you want people to?
Yeah, you can follow me on all my social media. There's nothing secret. I'm at Jeff Isbell on Instagram, Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok too, but it's really nothing. Most of these things are pictures of my kids, but it's all my name. You can find me there. There's no A. It's Jeff Isbell. People always get that confused. So if you're dying to hear more from me, that's how you can find out.
Oh, man, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, and hope you have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Coming up in May in Chicago at the beautiful Union League Club. I'm very fortunate to stay there. One of my clients performed there years ago. Such a fantastic group over there. Debbie Lee puts on a great job with all their events. What's up, Deb? But that is it. Great recap of conference. Jeff is always amazing. Such a nice guy. Make sure connect with him over on the socials, the LinkedIns, the Instagrams. He's probably more active on the LinkedIns, I would assume, based off our talk. But make sure you follow us. Give a like, share, subscribe, 5-star ratings, share with friends, colleagues, people who you think would benefit from our content. We really appreciate any and all support. And we appreciate any and all feedback. And like I said, I know we have a lot of people overseas, over in different countries. I would love to hear from you. How can we help you? Maybe we can have a different cool segment, things that are going on over there that are different from over here, which I think would be cool kind of comparisons. But please, everybody, let's engage. We're over on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can email us at privateclubradio@gmail.com. But we look forward to you listening to the next episode. Catch you on the flippity flip. Bye-bye.